So good morning students. Today we will discuss on the topic that is cell theory. Okay. Yesterday also we had discussed some of the points about the cell theory. Okay. So first I had told you that is MJ, name of that person who has put forth his idea on cell theory, that is MJ Skeleton. MJ Skeleton, that is Matthias Jacob Skeleton, in the year 1938 has put forth his idea that cells were the unit of structure in plants. What it is? Cells were the unit of structure in the plants. So again with his co-worker, along with him one of his co-worker, that is German zoologist. The name of that person is Theodor Scaven. What is the name? Theodor Scaven. In the year 1838, in 1839, what he said means he applied the skeleton thesis on what? On the plants. Okay, so both of them postulated that this skeleton and Scaven, both of them postulated that cell is the basic unit of life. What they postulated? They postulated, or they had told this that cells are the basic unit of life. Okay. Then this simple basic formal biological generalization, this simple meaning or this simple sentence, what we call, is generally, which is very simple basic formal biological generalization. This is known as the cell theory or cell doctrine. What is cell theory or cell doctrine? So next, further, what were the discoveries of the skeleton? Then further, what happens in skeleton describes first nucleus. Also, skeleton describes the first nucleus, which is one of the important essential cell organelle in the cells. Okay. Scaven with his co-workers studied both plant and animal tissues, their constituent. Okay. So they modified the cell theory to include the idea that living things are composed of both cells, their products, and secretions of the cells. Skeleton and Scaven, what they told means they had modified the evolving cell theory. Modified evolving cell theory. How means as they told, they given the idea that cells, that the living organisms are composed of both cells, okay, and products and secretions of the cell. Okay, so this is the theory which has been put forth by skeleton and the Scaven. And further, then Scaven also introduced the one more process that is very important, that is the metabolism. Metabolism means inside the cell, whatever the reactions are going to take place, that is also given the idea in the cell theory by the skeleton. So why they had given the idea of metabolism means to describe the activities of the cell. Then further, some other scientists who are involved in this discovery of the cell theory. Let's see that one. See here. Next, one more person involved over here in the contribution of the discovery of the cell theory. What was that particular person? So the name is J. Negley. What is his name? J. Negley. In the year 1846, what he had contributed in the cell theory means showed that plant cell arises from the. He showed that plant cells arises from the pre-existing cells. What Naegeli had told, or what Naegeli has described in it, he told that each and every plant cell he experimented or discovered on what? On the plants. As you know, plants are also living organisms. So what he did means he showed that plant cells, whatever the plant cells will be there, these plant cells arises from the pre-existing cells. Means see here, if this is the parent cell, this cell will undergo into the division like this. This is the nucleus. If it is undergoing into the division, the nucleus is also going to divide. So here it is going to form the two cells. Okay. Then again it will divide. Then again it will give rise to the two cells. Okay. That means this is the parent cell. This is the new cell. What he is telling in his idea or in his theory means each and every plant cell in the plant, the cells are arising from these cells. We can consider as the pre-existing cell. What it is? It is the pre-existing cell, and these cells are the new cells. Okay, so each cell in the plants or each plant cell is arising from the pre-existing cells. Whatever their parent cells are there, to them we can say the pre-existing cells. Okay, so in his theory, what he said that cell arises from the pre-existing cells. And so in Latin, he had given one statement. In Latin, he had given one statement on this: the cells arises from the pre-existing cell. And what is that statement means? Omnis cellulae, omnis cellulae, e cellulae. This is the statement which was given by the Naegeli. Okay, as he has shown that in the plant cell, each cell will arise from the pre-existing cell. That's why omnis cellulae, e cellulae means all cells are arising from the pre-existing cell. Every cell from a cell. The meaning of this statement: every cell from a cell. This is the meaning of this statement. Okay, this is very important. Omnis cellulae, who has given? That is the J. Naegeli has given this statement. The next, one more scientist is there. His name is Virchow. Let's see their contribution. So see here, next scientist, whose name is Virchow. So after skeleton scaven, third person was Kianegeli, who told that omnicellulae is cellulae. Okay, skeleton and scaven has told that the cells arising from the plants, they have some of the secretions, they have these products. Okay, so now next to Virchow, what Virchow told means they established the significance of cell division. Virchow established the significance of or importance of cell division. Significance of cell division. See, as you know, this is the cell. The cell will grow. First, it will undergo into a growth process. After growing, it will mature. Okay. After maturing, the cell next it will undergo into the division. So, what is the important significance of this division? Means each cell will give rise to the new cells, or one cell has the capability that it can give rise to the many number of cells. If many number of cells are going to form, then there will be formation of tissues, organs and organ system by which an organism is going to be formed. So what he told, Virchow established the significance of cell division in the reproduction of organisms. In the reproduction of organisms. So he, according to the cell division, what he is telling means that it has the capability of growth, then division. So if division is going to take place, many number of cells are going to form. If many number of cells are going to form, a new organism will be formed. Okay. If a new organism is going to form, then from the pre-existing organism, then we can call it as the process that is the reproduction. So for the reproduction, the cell division is very essential. So who has given this statement in the cell theory means that is the person, that is the Virchow. The next, later, one more person whose name is Louis Pasteur. Let's see about their contribution. Later, after all discoveries by the four scientists, later one more person, that is the Louis Pasteur. Louis Pasteur, he gave an experimental evidence. He gave an experimental evidence to support Virchow's extension of cell theory. See, what Virchow has told, cell division is necessary for reproduction in organism. So later Louis Pasteur has proved that. He gave the evidence, he gave the proof by doing some experiments. Okay, so he gave the proof that whatever the Virchow has said that cell division is necessary, so he gave that particular proof to the Virchow's cell theory. Okay, so this is about the Louis Pasteur. The next that is about the cell theory, what it states. Okay, what are the statements of the cell theory? Till now we had studied about the discoveries of the statements of the different scientists. Now we will talk about the statements of the cell theory. cell theory states that the first statement of the cell theory, all living organisms and that living organisms, it may be either animals, plants and microorganisms. Animals, plants and microorganisms. So they all living organisms are made up of one or more cells. Are made up of one or more cells and their products. Whatever the cell products will be there, they are made up of that cells and their products. That means each organism, if it is unicellular, which is made up of, for example, amoeba. Amoeba, this is the unicellular organism. Okay, this is what? This is the cell. So, amoeba, this is also one of the living organism. What it is? It is also one of the living organism. So, see here. It is made up of what? It is composed of, as it is a living organism, it is composed of only one cell. Okay. Cells and their cell products, they are telling. What do you mean by the cell products? Cell products means that is the cell organelles, such as the cytoplasm. Okay. Then the nucleus, vacuole. These all are what? These all are the cell products. Okay. Now come to the multicellular organism. Here they have given all living organisms, animals, plants, microorganisms. Okay. So among the animals, plants are the multicellular, means which are made up of many cells. Such as one example we take, that is the plant. If we take a plant cell, in that particular plant cell, there will be presence of nucleus. Okay. Then endoplasmic reticulum. Then there will be presence of cell wall, nucleus, endoplasmic reticulum, then vacuole. One big vacuole will be there. This is the vacuole. So like this, many cell organelles will be there in what? In the multicellular organism. Okay. So that we are telling all these things are the cell products. These all are what? Cell products. And here a plant is made up of what? Many cells. Many cells, that is the reason we are calling it as the multicellular organism. Okay. So in his first statement, what he said in the cell theory, that all living organisms, animals, plants, microorganisms are made up of what? One or more cells and their products. So, okay. The next second statement, let's see here. In the second statement, he has told that all metabolic reactions in all metabolic reactions in living organisms takes place in cells. Okay. Here what he is telling, metabolic reactions, that means metabolism. Metabolism means that is the cellular activities. Cellular activities means such as the chemical reactions which are going to take place, such as protein synthesis, transcription, translation, replication, lipid synthesis, energy production, that all cellular activities will take place within the cell. Okay, either that living organism, it may be unicellular or multicellular. Okay, this is the second statement. Then in third statement, what he said is, in the cell theory, cells originate from other cells. Third one, cells originate from other cells. Okay, that means all cells are arising from their pre-existing cells. No cells can originate spontaneously. Okay. See, cells originate from the other cells means there is no cells. Okay, not in the animals, not in the plants, not in the microorganisms. There is no cell which are going to originate spontaneously, but it comes being only by the division. Okay, that means each and every cell, it is going to see if this is the new cell. How this new cell has came? That is from the parent cell. Okay, that is from the parent cell. This cell has undergone into the division. First duplication, whatever their genetic material will be there, such as the DNA, RNA, that will duplicate. Duplicate means they are going to make the copies. Okay, then they are going to divide. Duplication, then division. Then the new cells are going to form. There is no cell which will not arise automatically. Okay, they will arise from the pre-existing cells of the other cells. Okay, then next fourth statement. Here, smallest clearly defined. Smallest statement which is clearly defined. Smallest clearly defined. Clearly defined unit of life is the cell. Okay, what he's saying means it is clearly defined by seeing all these statements in the cell theory. Okay, by seeing all these three statements, it is clearly defined that cell is the basic unit of life. Okay, cell is the basic unit of life, or cell is the basic unit of all living organisms. Okay, it has been clearly defined that this smallest cell, which is smallest statements I had given over here, which are very simple, which are very clear. In the first statement, you see all living organisms are made up of one or more cells. Okay, and with their products. Then in the second statement, what they had given, all metabolic activities in living organisms takes place within the cells, not outside the cell, within the cell. In the third statement, cell originates from the other cells. Then in the fourth, they had given altogether by seeing all these three statements, first, second, and third, they had given that cell is the unit of life. Okay, so this is about what the statements of the cell theory. If they ask the question, what is state the cell theory means, you have to write all these statements. The next here they had given some biological application of cell theory. Let's see that one. Here the cell theory has some, it had its wide biological application and its wide biological applications. Okay, what are the biological application? Here, Kolikar, one of the scientists, his name is Kolikar. Okay, Kolikar applied cell theory to embryology. Okay, applied cell theory to embryology. Embryology means what? Embryology means this is the study of development of embryo. Okay. What he told? He had applied the cell theory. Okay, that is all living organisms are made up of one or more cells. Okay, in the embryology, how embryo is going to develop, in that concept you clearly understand that how these cells are going to divide to form a new organism. That is the thing. And next thing here, that when he demonstrated that, what he demonstrated means, when he demonstrated that organisms develop from the fusion of male and two gametes or the two cells. When he applied the cell theory to embryology, when he, after it was demonstrated that, after it was demonstrated that the organisms developed by the fusion of sperm and fusion of two cells. And what are the two cells? That is sperm and ova. Okay. So what he said, he applied the cell theory to the embryology. Embryology means that is the developmental stages of embryo. Okay, by seeing that one, that concept, he had given the cell theory, applied the cell theory to that embryology. It was demonstrated that organisms has developed by the sexual reproduction, where there is a fusion of two gametes or two cells, that is sperm and ova. Okay, so this is about the Kolliker's application, biological application in the embryology. Next, exceptions to cell theory. What are the exceptions? Next up, exceptions to cell theory. Here, cell theory does not have a universal application. This is one acceptance. Cell theory does not have a universal applications. That means here universal applications means whatever the applications are there of the cell theory, that is not going to be applied all over in on all the living organisms. It may differ. Okay. Then the second one, there are certain organisms which does not have the true cells. Here, this is very important. Listen here. There are certain organisms which do not have true cells. Okay, which do not have the true cells. Okay, see, which is that organism which does not have the true cells? Means, see here, all the organisms are composed of cells, that we know. But what he is telling here, what they are telling means, all certain organisms are there in all living organisms which does not have a true cells, which are not composed of a true cells. Okay, for the true cells, okay, what are the following characteristics? Some basic characteristics will be there. If that characteristics are present in the cells, then only we can say that particular cell is the true cell. See here, all true cells. Here I will write. All true cells shares a following three basic characteristics. Okay, all the true cells in all the living organism, they will share some three basic characteristics. First characteristic is set of genes. A set of genes means all the true cells are composed of nucleus. There, one of the essential cell organelle is there, that it is known as the nucleus. In that nucleus, see here, this is the cell in which there will be presence of nucleus. This nucleus will have the chromosomes. Okay, these chromosomes will have the genes. Okay, these genes will have the DNA, RNA, then proteins. So to this we can call it as the genetic material. So all living organisms are composed of cells, that we know. But all cells should have a set of genes. Okay, so what does this genes means over here? It constitutes the blueprints. Let's see here. It constitutes the blueprints for blueprints for regulating cellular activities. Whatever the cellular metabolism which is going to take place inside the cell, that is going to be regulated by what? By the certain genes. Okay, regulating cellular activities as well as the cell division. That both processes are based on the genes. Then second one, that it is the limiting plasma membrane. Second characteristics, that it is the limiting plasma membrane. Okay, here in this limiting plasma membrane, here the plasma membrane, all cell will have, either it may be plant, either it may be animal, or either it may be the microorganism cell, that all will have a limiting boundary, okay, or a limiting envelope. What that envelope or the boundary or the membrane is known as the, that is the plasma membrane, that permits the controlled exchange of matter, permits the controlled exchange of matter and energy. Whatever the energy and matter molecules, ions will be there, that is going to allow by whom? By the plasma membrane. Third characteristic feature is that it is the metabolic machinery. This is the last characteristic feature, that it is the metabolic machinery. So, what is the importance of this metabolic machinery? Means for sustaining the life activities, such as growth, reproduction, then growth is there, reproduction is there, and repair of the parts. So here in the cell there is a presence of certain organelles which are performing the metabolism. Okay, so that metabolism, that it is known as the metabolic machinery. So for sustaining life activities such as growth, reproduction, and repair of the worn out tissues or damaged tissues, so they require this machinery. So altogether, by seeing all these three basic characteristics, all organisms will have these three basic characteristics except one, that is the virus. Virus will have a set of genes, okay, but they don't have a limiting. We cannot say virus is the true cells. Why? It's lacking some characteristics in this particular what I am explained over here. It will be lacking over here. What is that? Means virus does not fit easily fit in these three parameters of a true cells. Okay, they lack a plasma membrane. They have a set of genes, but they lack a limiting plasma membrane. They lack a metabolic machinery. So that is the reason we cannot say virus is a true cell. Okay. So here this is about the cell theory. Okay. Two more theory is there, that is protoplasm theory, and one more organismal theory, that I will explain in the next class. Okay, thank you.